Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, IU fans. Welcome to the Central Indiana Sports Report for the IU Report with Grant Shouse and Mike Hutsell. Today, previewing IU-Iowa football. And we will be back on Saturday for our reaction to the game. And every Wednesday morning is our IU Report, where we typically talk a lot of men's basketball and football with Grant and Mike. Of course, it's been all football lately, which is just weird. Just an odd feeling that IU football brings some kind of alternate. Anyway, so check back in Wednesday, or better yet, subscribe so you don't miss a single segment of the Central Indiana Sports Report.
You're listening to the IU-Iowa preview with Grant Shouse and Mike Hutsell. And here's your host, Grant Shouse.
Welcome, Hoosier fans, to the Central Indiana Sports Report, as we have the Indiana versus Iowa preview. Grant Shouse here at Stage 22 with Greg Mengelt. Now Mike Hutsell has joined us here. And Mike, Greg just told me to take over. I don't know what he's doing. There he is. But we are here and we are ready to talk the Iowa Hawkeyes.
Scary. A little bit of a scary game. I'm not going to lie. I don't want to undersell this one. Kinnick is just intimidating to me. I think you're crazy if you're not. You just talked about it on the last pod. Go back and watch the highlights of the last trip up there. 2 pick sixes, an 80-yard touchdown run.
Offense couldn't move the ball.
Offense couldn't do anything. O-line got dominated. Kirk Ferentz is boring, and much as we like to make fun of him as we do, he's doing something right. He's been there since 1990.
He's a coach that I at least respect. Like, I don't respect Bielema, but I do at least respect Kirk Ferentz because he reminds me a lot of the high school football coach at the high school I went to. But they're pretty mellow. They keep it really close to the chest, except when the mic opens up and they'll tell you a lot. It's an intimidating. It's way more intimidating than last week, I think, because it's a house of horrors. We've been saying it. It's a tough place to play, not just for Indiana, but for a lot of other opponents as well. We've seen top 25 teams go there ranked when Iowa's unranked, and Iowa beats them. So this is and we said it the other night, Mike, it's the Webster's dictionary definition of a trap game. And it comes at a pivotal time of the season where Indiana really needs to have this win to go 5-0 and build some momentum going into the bye week next week.
Right. And, all the talk this week's been about Indiana this, Indiana that, and well-deserved after what they did on Saturday. But Iowa, you hit the nail on the head there. They've won these types of games before at Kinnick. They are prepared for what may be coming. Thankfully, it's not a night game. They seem to have that, aura around night games at Kinnick. I feel good about Indiana's chances of winning. I'm not going to sit here and say I don't think they're going to win. But you're kidding yourselves if you think this is going to be an easy road trip.
I think it's one of those games where you're right. I feel really great about Indiana winning the game, but Iowa is just a team that can play spoiler, I feel like.
It's okay to be a little nervous, I think, with this team. Unlike last week, the Clowns from Champaign. I'd be a little nervous.
I'll be honest with you, I was nervous before last week, but this one's a little different. But now I feel like you can throw some trust into the coaching staff, into the players after winning last week. Here's the thing, is that in terms of when Signetti took over, the 2 toughest environments you've gone into and played on the road have been Notre Dame and Ohio State, 1A, 1B. It doesn't really matter. Probably Ohio State was tough, just a little more tougher, a little more at stake that game. But Iowa is probably going to be in the discussion at Kinnick as the toughest environment they've played in outside of Notre Dame and Ohio State. It's going to be loud. It's going to be rocking. And it's one of those fall Saturdays where, people have been drinking since 6:00 in the morning. I won't be one of them, but
Of course not.
of course not. But in Indiana's favored -7.5, I think, or maybe up to 8.5 now as we're talking. I think it'll go up even more, maybe as the week goes on. But the thing is, Mike, is one of the biggest things I look at is that Iowa's leading rusher, their main running back, is out on Saturday with an injury.
Yeah, that's a big twist. I think that had something to do with the line moving the way that it did, because it started at 4, and obviously the money just came in huge on Indiana because it moved and moved and moved. But I do think that injury went a little ways towards doing that. Now, the thing about Iowa that I really don't think it matters who the running back is, because their O-line's so good. PFF has that as the top line in the Big Ten, and I think that's probably well-deserved. And Indiana's biggest strength this year defensively has just been they've been able to just completely engulf the other team at the line of scrimmage. And if you take that advantage away from Indiana, it'll be really interesting to see how they respond. If they're not just absolutely putting heat on the quarterback every time they drop back. We talked about it, Indiana State, 20 dropbacks, 20 pressures. They sacked Luke Altmaier, 7 times on Saturday night? Losing that advantage, if it happens and Iowa's O-line's able to negate that, I want to see how this defense responds.
Now, this is my follow-up here. Do you think it's one of those games that's kind of a classic Big Ten game where the final could be like 28-21 or 21-17 or something like that? Do you think it would be a low-scoring game?
If it's an Iowa game, it's 13-9, and it's drizzling, and Kirk Ferentz is just punting his little heart away. And they didn't get to 9 by field goals. They had to throw a safety in there somehow.
And the one thing that I am really going to be keyed in on Saturday is special teams. You cannot kick to that dude for Iowa.
Oh, Frankie's the unheard of secret weapon in this game, the kickoff specialist for Indiana, because that guy has to just keep rocketing him out of the end zone.
And
Caden Weigman, I believe, is the kick returner's name. That guy didn't get touched in the Rutgers opening kickoff. And that's Iowa football. They beat you on special teams. They block your kicks. They return punts. They're always good in that aspect, and you have to try to negate that strength.
Yeah, and that's one of the only advantages that Iowa has over Indiana. We have seen Indiana return punt for a touchdown in the Old Dominion game, but Indiana pretty much leads, Mike, in every statistical category across the board.
There's been 2 versions of Iowa this year. The first game, they were not good. Gronowski was not, I think he was completed 8 passes in their season opener. Then they had the game against Iowa State, which was your Kirk Ferentz type game. I think it was 16-13, if I remember correctly. I'm just going strictly by memory there. And since then, leave it to UMass to really get things going right for people, because they played UMass, they got their offense humming, and they put 38 up in their trip to Piscataway last weekend. So they've gotten better each week as the season progressed. Offensively, I did see some cracks in that defense, though. They also gave up a lot of yards and a lot of points in that Rutgers game.
And the thing is Rutgers is a low pack Big Ten team. I think they're like in the discussion as the worst team, but they're definitely in kind of that Purdue, Rutgers,
Wisconsin.
Maybe
Maryland, Purdue, Wisconsin, or not Maryland, Purdue, Rutgers. That's your tier there of those 3 teams. Probably like the 14th through 16th slots.
18. And that's the thing with Iowa is I would put Iowa kind of in that same tier with Illinois. I think they're, the 9th or 10th best team in the Big Ten, and only time will tell to show where Indiana's at. And Big Cat at Barstool has Indiana as a juggernaut. So with some with the Eagles and the Bills. And
Right. He put him in the Super Bowl contenders list. So
I know it's crazy. I mean, you talk about how Iowa's got their offense moving. They're only averaging 33 points a game. Indiana's averaging just shy of 55 points a game. Indiana, all right. Indiana has only has scored 219 points. Iowa's only scored 132. Indiana's allowing 8 points a game on defense. Iowa's giving up about 14 and a half. And one of the big things here is that Indiana is just dominating first down wise. They've had 122 first downs. They've only allowed 34 first downs from opponents. And Iowa's only had 80 first downs through their first 4 games of the year. So the tempo is definitely in Indiana's favor offensively. Indiana's rushed for over 1,200 rushing yards. Iowa's only rushed for just 802. And they're almost even on rushing attempts. Indiana's only carried the ball 12 more times than Iowa has this year. Indiana's averaging just shy of 7 yards per carry. Iowa only averaging about 4.5 yards per carry. Indiana with 308 yards a game on the ground. Iowa with only 200 yards on the ground per game. But Indiana's only scored 1 more rushing touchdown than Iowa. They scored 11. Iowa scored 10. Indiana is, again, pretty favored in a lot of statistical categories. The first one on my chart that Iowa's favored in is 4th down conversions, where they're 4 for 6, and Indiana's 2 for 5 on 4th down. So Indiana's favored here. You see why in the statistics, but I think the game's going to be closer, Mike, than what these stats kind of depict in Indiana's favor, just because of the factors of going on the road. They're playing a good defense. Iowa has a really good defensive coordinator. They have a staff that's gelled together and been together for a long time. So those things, I think, bode well in Iowa's favor. But I really still feel confident Indiana's going to be able to win the game.
The crazy thing is up until last year, if you had told me Indiana, we sit here and make fun of Iowa now. We say they don't score points, they're boring, they punt. The kids in the hospital shouldn't have to watch this. They'd probably feel better if they didn't. But up until last year, if you had told me, like, what would make you happy as an Indiana football fan, just give me Iowa. Just give me that program. I want to go 7-5 every year. Every now and then we'll put it together. We'll have a 9-10 win season. But just consistency. We're going to win. We know what we're going to win. We're never going to be in the 4 or 5 win range. We know what we've got. And that's why Kirk Ferentz has lasted as long as he has, because Iowa knows what it has.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. And it goes back to, I think Iowa was kind of like being in the old Big Ten West, because the Big Ten West, that's a whole conference in itself. They're not guaranteed to play Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State like Indiana was. You're playing Northwestern, Purdue, Wisconsin, Minnesota. That was a different style of football. And I think Iowa over time kind of adapted to the slow down, low scoring, Midwestern style of football. And I think they're going to be able to carry that over. They have been, I think, kind of been able to show that they can carry that over into the new Big Ten without the divisions where they're guaranteed to play anybody every year. But I still just think Indiana is just favored in way too much to prove that they really have a good shot to win this game, I think.
And they have improved aesthetically as a program. When Brian Ferentz was there, Kirk's son, it was awful to watch. I mean, just painful. They had games where they went to Penn State for a whiteout, I think, a couple years ago, and they got shut out. I think they could have played 7 quarters and they wouldn't have scored a point. I don't think it mattered. They were just so bad offensively, but they keep getting better at quarterback. It seems like they upgrade slightly each year out of the portal. This year they've got this Gronowski kid who looks pretty good. I mean, throughout his first game, he's been really, really solid for them.
Yeah.
So, you said it right. This coaching staff has been together so long. Defensively, they're sound everywhere. They know their roles. Shout out Cooper DeJean, my favorite Iowa alum for Eagles DB.
He's a good one.
He's a good one. Just watching him truck Derrick Henry last year was one of the highlights of a really, really fun Eagles season.
And the thing is with Ferentz, Mike, with Kirk Ferentz, I just hate, and you may disagree, I just hate how likable he is. He's such a likable coach.
I mean, honestly, he's been there since 1999. I know when I see Kirk Ferentz who he is, but I just don't really feel like I know a whole lot about him. He's not braggadocious. He doesn't come out and like talk up his program a whole lot. He doesn't
like Signetti.
He's just a solid, under the radar Midwestern football team. Now they don't have the historical significance of the team I'm about to compare them to, but I mean, even within the uniforms, they are basically the Steelers of college football. They're not spectacular anymore, but they're not bad. No. Best case scenario, 7-5. Worst case scenario, 7-5.
Right. Just consistency. And you're right. You would take that every year as an Indiana fan just to be like the Iowa Hawkeyes.
All right. We've been really, really nice. And the other thing that sucks about Iowa, their fans aren't shitheads. There hasn't been a whole lot of crap that's made me be like, roll my eyes. It's mainly still just like Illinois and Purdue fans trying to, Signetti's going to Florida. Get used to it. You can't compete for him long term. Okay, but we're going to have a hell of a lot of fun right now while he's here. Iowa fans, the worst thing they've said is, we lead the historical series against Indiana. Good luck finding a Big Ten team where that doesn't apply. Illinois leads the overall series all the time.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ooh.
You know who Indiana, I think, has the overall historical?
It's got to be Northwestern. That's it.
Nope. I think it's Oregon.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
That's right. It is Oregon. That is true. They went out there on a fleek with DiNardo and they were the last Big Ten team to beat Oregon at Oregon.
The last Big Ten team to win at Autzen.
Unbelievable.
The fighting Jerry DiNardos, baby.
Indy freaking Anna. Here's the thing, Mike, and this has been a headline that's kind of flown under the radar in college over the past few weeks, and finally we can put the Lewis Moore stuff to bed. He was now finally granted eligibility by a judge in Texas. Huge deal. Huge. That's huge.
I mean, that's
better defense. Led the team to tackles. And now they get him for the entire season and not having to go through where he's playing the first 2 games, then we go back to court, then he gets his time extended, he gets another 2 weeks, and then you only essentially have him for the Illinois game because you didn't even need him in the Indiana State game. But now you get him for the entire year, keep him healthy, and you don't have to replace him in your defense in an area in the secondary that's already really thin.
Yeah, because they had the injury in game 1 to the senior safety on special teams.
Yep.
So his backup was even gone. So, yeah, that's a huge win off the field for Indiana. The NCAA is running like a Northwestern early 80s losing streak in the court system. I don't even know the last time they were able to get anything close to a victory in court. It's like, how much money are they spending just to get their ass kicked?
Right? That is so huge for Indiana to be able to have him. But it's one of those things where if they would have lost him, it's one of those where I trust Indiana's staff and I trust the players and the mentality they have enough to be able to step up. And this sounds bad because I would rather not lose any of them, and I hope I don't eat my words here, but if you asked me one of the better players that I would not prefer, but I would be I wouldn't be panicked is what I should say. I wouldn't be panicked if Indiana lost them. It'd probably be Lewis Moore because they did what they did last year without him, and they were still a really good team breaking up passes and defending the pass. It is so huge. It's so huge for the defense. It's a huge win for Indiana, like you said, away from the field. So that's a big thing there.
Hey, you know me with my over-unders. Iowa total punts, 4.5.
Over.
First half.
You're taking the over. Okay. Iowa total points, 16.5.
Under.
Yeah, I'm going to take the under.
I'm going to say 17 even. Does Indiana do the 300-yard thing again on the ground?
I'm going to say yes because I said no last week and I looked dumb.
That's a tough question, Mike. I'm going to say they'll have a lot of yards, but it won't be quite 300 because they will finally be playing a team that has a defensive coordinator that actually has a pulse and knows how to coach it up and knows how to stop the run.
Nando touchdown passes 2.5.
Over.
Yeah. I'll say 2. I'll go under.
Leading rusher, Roman Hemby, Keelan Black, Kobe Martin.
Hemby.
I'm going to say Keelan.
If it's a blowout like last week, it'll probably...
Kobe Martin could run in the fourth quarter for 100 yards. He's proven that 2 weeks in a row.
I don't think it's going to be quite that.
I don't think they're going to get there. I think this game could play out a lot like the Michigan State game did last year. If you remember correctly, Grant, on that one, Indiana had a hard time in the first quarter stopping them. Aiden Childs kind of moved the ball up and down the field. I think it was 10-0 early in that.
It was.
And Indiana kind of looked like it was on skates for the first time in that entire season. And that was coming off, I think, the Washington game last year. So the scenarios are pretty similar. So Iowa could get out to a lead here, and Indiana might. But then they just physically started dominating on the line. So I don't want to see Iowa jump ahead. I think that's a dangerous position to be in against Iowa. But I'm not going to be surprised if I see Iowa jump out to like a quick 7-0, 10-0 lead in this game.
Well, it is an offensive line game. It's a line of scrimmage game where I think whoever can dominate the line more is going to win the game. And you mentioned how Iowa's offensive line is the number one O line of the Big Ten. But the thing is Indiana's defensive line is that freaking good.
It so is.
It's that good. And here's where I like Ferentz is that he does kind of talk the other opponent. He does talk the opponent up a little bit. He said that this is very similar. The way that they're preparing is very similar to what they've seen from Ohio State last few years. And that is a great compliment, I think, from a coach like him talking about Indiana, comparing that they see this kind of stuff from really only Ohio State or Penn State, those kind of teams. They don't see this from Indiana every year. So that's a good sign, I think, for Indiana that they're kind of being compared to those programs because they have the quickness that Ohio State has. They have the athletes Ohio State has. Whether they would beat Ohio State or not up to us to decide because thank God they don't play them. So there's this whole thing of I think that Indiana's going to be really well prepared on the defensive side of the ball. So will Iowa. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game, though.
I think it's going to be a low-scoring game by one team. I'll just kick off the predictions right here. Indiana 27.
31-17 Indiana.
I will take Indiana 20. I'll take Indiana 35, Iowa 14. I think it's one of those kind of games.
Competitive on a lot of plays, but IU has the better players.
I agree.
And the better coaching. As much as we talked about Kirk Ferentz, he is not on the same level as Curt Cignetti.
I think that's an accurate statement.
I think he might be the best coach in the country. And I know he doesn't have the resume of some of the other coaches, but if I wanted to win one game right now against anybody, man, I'd have a hard time picking anybody over Curt Cignetti and his staff.
Oh, yeah, I agree. And you mentioned, and we talked earlier about how Iowa's staff has been together for so long, but think about how long Indiana staff's been together. They were together at Indiana, Pennsylvania. That's how long they've been together. They've been together since at least 2011. You know, Cignetti always, it's the cliche. Oh, yeah, well, my two coordinators, Mike Shanahan and Bryant Haynes, I hired them for about $11,000 at the D2 level, and now they're, Big Ten coordinators. So they've been together for a long time. They have the mentality. That's what I think separates Indiana apart from a lot of teams, is that they have this mentality that has been instilled in them since the minute they walked through the door, whether it was back at JMU or whether it was this year as a transfer. And I think Indiana now is taking the time where they've been able to get the transfers gelled together, play in the system, and it showed last week. I think that's going to carry into this week. I don't know if the game will be as dominant as the Illinois game, but I still do think Indiana will win, Greg. Say it, our little jingle.
Hoosiers by 3 touchdowns. Thanks, guys.
Thanks as always to Grant and Mike for joining me. And thank you for listening. Please do us a huge favor and share this podcast with an IU fan in your life and help spread the word that the Central Indiana Sports Report is here talking about Central Indiana sports every single day. Central Indiana Sports Report.
Oh no! Central Indiana Sports Report is a product of ITG Media.
And I love Susie.